Hi, heroes. I have more of like an oral presentation for you today. I had so much I wanted to share with you, and I wrote it all down, and there's no way I'm going to memorize it all. So, if it's okay with you, I would like to just read it to you. I wanted to pose some questions for you. Who wins in the battle of the light and the darkness? When one side wins, do they really have victory? Does winning really make the pain stop? Luke Skywalker was in a battle, the light and the darkness, both internally and externally. His battle was with Darth Vader, also known as his father. Darth Vader was also in a battle between the light and the darkness, both internally and externally. His battle was with his son, Luke Skywalker. Luke is the hero and Darth is the villain. You can't have one without the other. Why were they at war? Well, their pain stories had a lot to do with it. They both lost someone very close to them. This connection that they lost became the antithesis of their war with each other, which really represented the raging war that was going on inside of each of them. They were battling the anger, fear, loneliness, grief, and love scarcity. This loss changed the course of their lives. Their loss became their war. For Darth Vader, formerly known as Anakin Skywalker, he lost his wife and the mother of his children. He could not face this pain. Instead, his anger became resentment, bitterness, hatred, and self-loathing. He left love as a form of self-protection, never wanting to be hurt again. So he became the perpetrator. Darth wasn't able to see the love that was still there, as it was coming in another form. In comes Luke Skywalker, just a baby, coming into the world. His mother died, and his father abandoned him. Believe me, this created a raging internal war for Luke. But his wounding also gave him a reason to fight. He was angry. Hell yeah, he was ready for battle, ready to protect what he loved. His fight was significant in that he was trying to find meaning in his pain. He wanted justice. The anger he was facing was coming from a deep root sense of rejection. And so Luke went from victim to rescuer or hero. Every hero needs a villain, or who would they fight? Where else would the hero get their significance? Both hero and villain, father and son, were at war, unknowingly trying to cope with the loss of love, the loss of a wife and a mother, but also the loss of the versions of themselves that they were before they experienced the loss. Both Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader were bonded to each other through their pain. Their pain became their hatred for one another. The battle gave them each a sense of purpose. Without the war, their pain may have become meaningless. In a way, Luke's father, Darth Vader, gave Luke his purpose. His father gave him someone to fight, someone to take his anger out on. Maybe Darth wanted his son to be tough, strong, able to protect himself. If you looked at this from a different perspective, Darth created the hero by becoming the villain. Intentionally or not, Darth gave Luke a way to handle the pain and disappointment of the loss of love. Luke had a way to become the hero instead of the victim. Can you see the love in that when you change the perspective? Unfortunately, Darth Vader's anger may have been projected onto his son, Luke Skywalker. You see, Luke represented everything that Anakin was before he lost the love of his life. But because he couldn't face that pain, he couldn't face his own son. He just couldn't face his pain, his insecurities, his anger, and he left the love that was available to him because he couldn't accept it in a new form. For Luke, this betrayal of his father gave him everything: a reason to fight, a purpose, an identity, significance. But don't fool yourself. His light was coming from the darkness, the raging internal war of being abandoned. He wouldn't have been fighting the darkness if he had completion with it. His war against the villain came from the warring parts of rejection and abandonment. In fairness to Luke, it would be really hard to forgive a parent who didn't show up for you in the way that you would have preferred. It's funny to me now as I see Darth showing up for his son, just not in the way one would expect. He showed up as the antagonist, which gave Luke a reason to keep showing up in his own life, to keep fighting. What I find ironic about this story is that both of their pain came from the loss of someone they loved, a mother and a wife, a feminine energy. So they both pushed love away because love came with too much pain. So they chose to battle and fight each other instead, both pushing love away and masking it with the power struggle of good versus evil. But if Luke could have sat with his darkness, maybe let's call it his anger, and if Darth could have let the light into his darkness, let's call it his grief, pain, sadness, then the light and the dark parts of them wouldn't have had to fight. They could have seen the love that was available to them. And I don't think there would have been a battle. Instead, there could have been healing. You see, we can't disown our darkness or our light. We are both. And when we accept ourselves as both, we begin to heal. Sometimes what we see as darkness is really just unloved, unaccepted, and misunderstood pain or parts of ourselves. Sometimes what we see as light is masked as fighting for justice, but the anger underneath represents the darkness that we see in others, but we can't see it in ourselves. Who wins at the end of the story? Luke conquers over Darth Vader. Does that settle the raging war in Luke? Or will he have to fight many more Darth Vaders until he can see his own? When you're able to integrate both your light and dark parts, you don't become the villain. Instead, you have understanding and compassion for your own darkness. When you can see the light in your darkness, you can see the light in other people's darkness. The raging war inside you calms, and in turn, you can calm the raging war in others. The battle doesn't start outside of you. It starts from within. May the Force be with you.